In this week's Torah portion, Eikev, Moses continues his words of rebuke to the Jewish people in the last days of his life, recounting the great rebellions and missteps that occurred during the 40 years in the desert, forewarning and cautioning them before their entry into the land of Israel. Moses reminded them of the fateful day when he descended Mount Sinai with the 2 stone tablets and found them dancing and worshiping before the golden calf, whereupon he took the tablets and smashed them at the foot of the mountain. Moses did indeed go back up Mount Sinai to beseech God to pardon the Jews. And ultimately, as we know, on the 10th of Tishrei, on Yom Kippur, the Jews did attain complete forgiveness, and Moses descended from his communion with God, holding a second set of tablets. Our sages tell us that one of the things that caused the people to commit this grave sin was that they personally possessed huge amounts of gold. The shiny coins and glittery ornaments lured them away from their devotion to their Creator, enticing them to worship its sinful indulgence. Now, that being the case, one would expect that after such a grave sin, God would enact a new prohibition, disallowing any possession of gold. One would imagine that the Jews would be prohibited to own or use any of that precious metal. And yet after Yom Kippur, God instructs that a tabernacle be built using many different materials, and first among them, gold. Furthermore, according to the Torah, the purpose of the tabernacle was to rectify for the sin of the golden calf. Wouldn't it then have been a better idea to only use, say, silver or copper to remove the usage of gold in this new home for God? Hasidism teaches that everything that exists in the world can be utilized in a good and just manner, in a way that serves God's vision for humanity, or it can be used to an end that is self-centered or even destructive. Virtually all created matter that exists in the universe is neutral. It has the potential to be used or misused. It is mankind that has the power to make use of God's creation either in harmony with its intended purpose, to serve the Almighty, or on the contrary, to utilize it simply to serve oneself in spite of God's intent in creation. In the modern world we live in today, this is truer than ever. All technology can be a tool to benefit society, to help improve people's lives, or as a means to harm others, as an instrument of destruction. And the greater the potential for good, the more capacity for harm. Pain medication, for example, that can help a post-op patient recover from surgery, can also be used destructively to harm oneself. Airplanes that have dramatically changed the way we travel, allowing one to reach a far-flung city in only a few hours, have been used to wage war and spill blood. The Internet, which is the world's greatest vehicle for sharing information, for bringing the world together, for healing and educating, can be a deadly resource for hate and poison, an unpatrolled superhighway where terrorists and predators freely roam. In 1946, in the beginning of the nuclear arms race, a young girl in Brooklyn asked Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, soon to become the Lubavitcher Rebbe, if nuclear energy was a good or bad discovery. The Rebbe answered her with a question. "Tell me," he asked, "is a sharp knife dangerous?" "Yes, most certainly," she said. "I'm not even allowed to touch one at home." "Well then," he asked, "is the knife good or bad?" She thought about it for a minute, and finally she found the answer. "It all depends," she said, "on what it's used for. If it's used to stab somebody, then it's bad. And if it's used to slice challah on Shabbat, then of course it's good." Today, the world holds its breath as Iran pursues a nuclear capability. While many countries utilize nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, it is in fact the source of 15% of the world's electricity, we know the obvious danger and the destructive potential if that country succeeds in acquiring such weapons. Let us hope and pray that God gives us the wisdom to deal with that threat, to prevent that from ever happening. I am Rabbi Benny Rappaport, and thank you for joining us.